Hello, it is Rachel from the Nerdy Homeschooler, and today I'm going to take you on a deep dive into two different language arts resources that are in Spanish and for Spanish language arts. Now, I do want to let you know right from the start that these are not resources for learning Spanish from scratch. These are resources that are completely in Spanish. So your students or yourself are going to need a decent, solid Spanish foundation to start with. I'm going to say I don't think you need to be a native speaker in Spanish, and one of the reasons that I would say that is because I myself am not a native or perfectly fluent speaker in Spanish by any means, and yet I'm still going to endeavor to use them. But if your Spanish is better, then it will be a little easier for you to use them. These could be great resources for bilingual homeschoolers that do want to include Spanish language arts in their homeschool, but do keep in mind that these are not really designed for the homeschool audience. They are designed for schools. Both of these can be purchased through Vista Higher Learning. Their website, you can buy them directly. However, I do recommend keep an eye out on eBay or on used book type of sites. I was able to purchase several of the Antologia issues for much cheaper on eBay, for about $20 to $25 for a book versus the original price. So that made it a much more affordable price by just keeping your eye out there. But yeah, I'm going to take you on a look through both series. I'll try to put a timestamp in this video so you can tell when I'm going through one versus the other. They kind of have two different purposes and two different styles. This one is more of a reading anthology, although there is also work to go with the readings that you're doing. And this is more of what you would expect from a typical grammar type of workbook, like a language arts workbook. But you'll also see, you'll see what I mean when I get into these. So first we're going to take a peek at Antologia. And I have a few different books in the series, 1, 2, 3, not 4, and then 5. Again, I couldn't find 4 on eBay within the time frame I had for purchasing. So too bad for 4. Maybe at some point I will find that one. But I'll give you a quick peek inside different levels to let you know how it progresses through time. I'll just kind of go to the middle of first grade so you can get a nice look inside. So here we have a poem, a short poem, just 2 pages. This is the level 1, so roughly for first grade. The setup is always the same for all of these. We have some questions antes de leer, and then your student is supposed to be reading this passage themselves. Then they can read the questions and answer the questions. Now, I would not be having a student write in this book. This is not really designed to be a consumable book, and they are costly. So if I'm sitting with my child, I would have him answer these orally. Then there are also 2 pages of work that follow each story, and there's different types of work. So we might be seeing some little spelling rules, or we have some similar sounds right here. C and S in cinco and sílaba, C and K, 1 R and double R have some similar types of sounds. So así se dice, así se escribe. And we have some little work right here. Again, I'm not having my student write in this book. If there's anything I want him to write, we're doing it in a separate notebook. And then it ends with a little writing exercise right here. And in the first grade level, it's typically just finishing a sentence. ¿Qué instrumentos tocan? La rana toca, and then you finish the sentence. So you're not even writing a whole sentence. They're kind of giving you a sentence starter that you can finish. Then here we have a fable, and it follows the exact same format. So the way I'm using this in my homeschool is that I'm not having him read a new section every day. We're really working on building good reading skills right now as a beginner reader. So we are doing one of these sections in a week. We're reading the passage on the first day and answering these questions on the first day. Then the next day we'll probably do this page, review the story a little bit, do this page, do the writing, and last day of the week we'll read the story and expecting to read it with good fluency. So we'll read the story 2 or maybe 3 times in a week. and then do the work the other days. So this portion has had a lot of little poems, but they also have some like nonfiction type of passages here. We have a little biography, short biography, nice large print. You'll notice some yellow highlighted words. Those are words that they have in the glossary. So if you don't know the definition or your student doesn't know the definition, you can have them work on practicing looking up a word in the glossary at the back, and then they have the definitions. Most of the definitions are in Spanish. Occasionally, you just get a direct translation into English. But this book is all completely in Spanish otherwise. And they have a variety of different types of activities that they're doing with the readings. So this is level 1. Now I'll show you level 2. And we'll just open up to the middle so you can see. So this is a longer one, an informative text. So one thing that I think is really cool is they do definitely focus on having a lot of Hispanic cultural information, writers from Spanish-speaking countries throughout this. So there is fiction, there are fiction stories, there are poems, but I feel like they did a nice job with a variety, and also a nice job with including, cultural information, cultural topics to learn about from a variety of Spanish-speaking countries. So that is definitely nice. That's something nice to see in books that we're reading for school as we are practicing. So we're getting a variety of vocabulary. So you can definitely tell in level 2, especially here, which that's further on in the book. In the beginning, they were a little bit shorter. In the beginning of the book, it's a bit shorter, just 2 pages there. But as we progress later on into the second grade level, there are longer stories, more words, and you can pause anytime to see what is going on these pages. We're giving you a little peek inside. So here we have one in Uruguay. And they always have a little note on the topic. What country is this story or is this text about? Now we'll do level 3. I like to try to give you a look inside different levels when I can, so that you can assess what level might be best for your student. So this is how level 3 begins. A little bit smaller text, more words, but we're still having these exercises. And then in level 3, the little writing exercises are asking you to do 3 sentences. So I think that's very reasonable how incrementally it grows. They're expecting just a little bit more with writing as you go through each level. And the writing is connected to what you read and connected to the exercises that you're doing. Just a little bit of word work, some comprehension, comparison or discussion type questions there. So here they're doing a little bit of spelling and the sounds, I guess, of G and of J in Spanish. Then we have some antonyms, completing sentences with the words in the boxes. Here we're finding nouns, paying attention to the articles for different nouns. So write the article that would be correct. So these are very much typical language arts skills in elementary. Okay, and then here we are correcting these sentences. They're missing some signs. We only have our exclamation point at the beginning. We don't have it at the end. And then we have writing 3 sentences. So for me in our homeschool, I would foresee continuing a rhythm of we just have 1 unit in a week, and we're working through that unit in a week as we're getting really confident with the reading, with the vocabulary, always being able to look up the vocabulary in the back, do a little bit of writing about what we read, writing 3 sentences, using adverbs. Then I don't have 4, so you're going to notice a little bit of a jump here. I hope that I'm able to get 4 before the time we need it, which we do have a good long time because we're just starting in number 1. But here, it looks like we have a little play type of structure right here. So getting to have some practice with the play structure. You can see that the text gets a little bit smaller as the kids get older. This one is set in Spain. So here, for example, we have some missing syllables. We have an exercise regarding synonyms over here. We have working on words with 2 R's versus 1 R over here. the verb estar, so using the correct form of estar. These are all great, and I foresee this being really great for my kids. And then we have a writing exercise, and at this point, they're being expected to write a paragraph. So then we have some that have photographs, little nonfiction texts right here, a schedule that they can read and get information from. And that is a peek inside a bunch of different levels of Antologia. Now let's look at Entre Palabras. And this is exercises for orthography or spelling, word structure and grammar. And it starts out, I would say, very basic and easy. At the beginning, we're talking about names. And there's kind of one main learning point for every page spread. So the main learning point here is that names begin with capital letters. Something that you're going to see in every first grade curriculum, or how many vowels there are and how many consonants there are. And we have a little reading right here about Luisa and the letters. Then how do we make words? Words are made from syllabus, syllables. Now, when I got to this page, I must admit I got a little nervous. This page is focusing on the digraph CH, and it's just got this really little short story, including a lot of words with CH. And maybe this is just a CH problem, but it seems like it had a lot of words that I was unfamiliar with, words that I had to look up. So that did make me a little nervous, like, oh, this might be hard. We have tiliches, cachivaches, bonachon, chucherías, corcholatas, boliche. So I did get a little bit like, oh, this is a little hard. But I do think, that might just be a page here and there, depending on the specific phonetic concept or something that just happens to have some not so commonly used words. But that is something to be aware of if you're using this and you're not a native speaker or you don't have a ton of education in Spanish. You probably are going to need to be willing to, look up a word on your phone here and there to figure out an answer, because there's no answer key in this book itself. So you got to kind of be willing to have that creative problem solving for Spanish to help your child with any questions that they might have. And you might be doing some translating if you are using this from as not a native speaker, because this is designed to be used with a Spanish-speaking teacher, someone who does speak the language very, very well and does know how to teach it. So be willing to continue learning and continue your own education. And that's something that I would always say. If you are teaching your kids a second language that is your own second language, you have to approach it with the idea that I'm willing to continue learning and I need to continue learning myself. But I will say, once I kind of got past the CH page, I did not notice so many challenging words on the other pages. So maybe I just didn't happen to know a lot of those CH words. I don't know. But so they're just going through different topics with how words are made and little rules about the language. So right here, you'll see in this poem, they don't have the right spaces between the words. You can tell that they're missing spaces. So here, they're expected to read this poem, and then in this second paragraph that's missing spaces, they are supposed to rewrite that paragraph right here, but put spaces in the right spots. And then again, they're doing that here with these lines from this little poem, or these little sentences. So where are we separating our words? So there's many different just little categories of language arts skills we're working on. These types of adjectives, and you have little definitions right here that you are filling out. And like I'm saying, if you're not so familiar with Spanish language arts, you might have to give this a minute to think about it, to realize to figure out what the answers are. But you should be able to get the hang of it as you and your child are both growing in your Spanish language learning. Then they have occasionally where you are correcting texts, you're adding things that are missing to texts, and they do have occasional games as well. And these are games that you can play with your child. So this is an example of what the grade 1 book looks like. And something to think about is that if you have a child who's not a native speaker, but is becoming more advanced in Spanish, you could have a child working at a lower grade level in Entre Palabras than they are at chronologically. So you don't have to be in first grade to use this. We are going to start this during my son's second grade year. So I'm kind of moving him back roughly about a year. I don't think we'll start this quite at the beginning of his second grade year, but we will start this during his second grade year. So you can work a little bit behind grade level if needed with a child who isn't fully fluent in Spanish or isn't as advanced in Spanish, but is advancing and making progress. So then I want to give you a look inside level 2. Again, we're working on the separation between words. Here we have some homophones with B and V, correcting the text. We have our little game. So there can definitely be ways in which this will be challenging to use without a teacher's guide. So if you're going to use it, I would just say make sure you're feeling up to the challenge. For my son, I don't foresee that he would be able to use this super independently. In the near future, he's still going to need some of my help to read and understand the instructions and understand the style, what's expected. So this is something I foresee sitting alongside him to do, especially now while he's still young. Here's a peek inside 2. Adjectives, question marks. We're working on these different syllables here. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku, and the different ways that they're spelled. The plural of words that end in Z, so little spelling rules like that. Nuez, nueces, nariz, narices. So there is a decent amount of writing, and the lines can be pretty small. So that's also something to be aware of, and that's one reason I'm not going to rush through these books, because I know with my son it's going to take a little while before he's able to write small enough for these blanks right here. It's just something to keep in mind for kids. And I'll give you a look at level 3. This is the highest level that I have for now, but I believe they go up to 6. So you can get more advanced levels for older students. So this is grade 3, approximately. Palabras con ga, ge, gi, go, gu. Working on those spelling. So you have these little things to read. There's a lot of, variety in here. It's definitely not the same every day. We have a little crossword. We're forming, using guita. So forming diminutives, here we're using guita and guita with different words, using the period. And you can see the expectations for writing are increasing as we go into 3rd. So, okay, words ending in asa and aso. Again, plurals of words ending in Z. So in that way, it's very reminiscent of a lot of grammar programs that you'll go over the same topics, but the student work or the challenge level will increase a little bit each year, but you're still doing the same topic. So you're coming back again and again to those same spelling and grammatical topics. It's just that the expectations and the complexity is growing each year. All right, that is a look inside Entre Palabras. I hope that this video was helpful for those of you interested in Spanish language arts resources for your homeschool. Please leave any comments or questions down below. I'm always happy to chat with you. And you can share your experience using these resources or others as well. Bye.